Hello and welcome. How we doing today? I'm Baka, or Ender Dragonoth, and I am a huge anime nerd. Today I'm going to be bringing you the next episode of Old Baka Rants at Clouds. Again, talking about endings. This time, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite anime series, Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, and how, in one episode, it ties up 25 episodes worth of open strings into a braided cord that still allows enough opening for a second season of the Ghost in the Shell series. This episode opens up over the sound of Bato screaming out the Major's name, Motoko! It then transitions into this series' representation of cyberspace, with the different gates and everything, and a voiceover from the Laughing Man and the Major, contemplating what it is to lose oneself into the internet, an individuality that may only be solved in death, as they synchronize everything online. And we see the image of an old school library in digital representation. We then get the splash page, letting us know that the name of the episode is Standalone Complex. After this, we get a voiceover from Togasa, as he's trying to figure out his purpose and place in everything that's going on in the aftermath of what had happened in the previous episode, where Section 9 got burnt. We see him lazing around his apartment that he has with his family, contemplating what had happened previously and going over the different events, and the fact that as everything else was going on, he was left in the dark, put in prison for 15 days while everything else was going on around him. When he was finally released, he was given two orders. One, saying Section 9 had been completely disbanded, and the second one from his cover story, saying he's been put on indefinite leave. Now, after this, being Togasa, as he is, a detective, he decides to go running around, trying to figure out what exactly had happened to his beloved Section 9, and the rest of his team members. He ends up going to an internet cafe, searching Section 9, and seeing that most of his team has been captured, except for one, the Major. The Major was killed. After his adventures around town trying to find out what's going on, he comes back home and turns on the TV and sees the major target of the person that they were going for in Section 9 is being arrested by the DA. He seems to take this almost as a personal slight, as the work that was done to get to this point was done by Section 9, who no longer exists. So, he decides the best action is to take action himself, and go and grabs his backup pistol, and proceeds to go with a plan, following the Catcher in the Rye book, which he grabs on his way out. He ends up at the construction site where Section 9 was previously, talking over and using lines from the book that has been referenced this entire series, The Catcher in the Rye. Eventually, he looks at it and realizes that he has become a copy of the Laughing Man himself, and ends up tossing the book down from the high-rise. He's decided to take matters into his own hands and become a copycat of the Laughing Man, trying to get people to say what is actually going on. And his best idea is to put on that blue coat, take up his hood, and take a gun to somebody. However, as he's going, he's stopped by a ghost of the past, or somebody that at least shouldn't be there. The big guy, Bato himself. And he says, "We knew we'd find you here. We knew what you're going to be doing. Now come on, man. You got people to meet and places to be," as he runs off to his car. We get a transition into some type of facility where most of the members of Section 9 are sitting there waiting for him, and they start talking about what had happened and how all of this was actually according to the plan of Aramaki. He was set up in a way with Section 9 being made public and realizing he only had one choice, to burn the organization himself, versus letting them take the fall for somebody else. So what he did is he actually set the other people up, telling Section 9 to go to ground and run and hide, so that way they can come back together another time. And his way of protecting Togasa? Well, simple, get him arrested. As they reminisce over the different things that had happened during this time, and they tell Togasa to look at the past 3 months as an extended vacation, he still sits there confused, perplexed, but ultimately happy. And they keep talking about different things, and then it's brought up of, well, what happened to the Major? I thought she was dead. At this point, the team looks at Bato, and as he gets gruff and saying he doesn't care what happens to the Major anymore or anything like that, as they joke going, I wonder if we could pull up the satellite image of you going, Batoko. After this scene, we get the transition to Aramaki at the place where the DA is, as they're investigating some of the people that were behind the whole matter of what Section 9 was investigating this season. And he's shown in a position of power, standing on top of the stairs, even with his short stature, being taller than everybody else around him. And that's because at the end of the day, even though he's had to burn out his team, everybody respects him. After this, we get a transition again to an older building, someplace where not many people go. And what do we see? The blue jacket and the red hat that's used by the Laughing Man. It's an old library, similar to the one that we saw at the start of the episode, but this time in the real world, not digital. The Major is going down and walking through the library, obviously looking for somebody. And then we see him. Or the Laughing Man. He's standing on a ladder that's used to put books away onto the higher shelves, at least when it's done by a human, not a robot. As the Major and him talk about what it is to be an individual and how you can keep oneself once data is synchronized, as she got the experience firsthand when her brains got blown out in the previous episode, right before she went into the internet with her ghosts and went back to an older body, because that's all that she had available. Then they talk about the nature of the copycats and who was the original Laughing Man, at which point Oe goes, I'm the poster child of cybernetics, as he shows that he has no actual hair, and his brain case has several different access ports, as he's synchronized with the internet multiple times. He then confesses that the only reason why he even started the whole situation as a Laughing Man is an email he just stumbled upon, not really knowing what it was, and got this idea to blackmail and to help this person and make sure that everything was taken care of the way it should be, as the treatment some of the companies were giving did not actually work. Now, there's more talk between the Major and the Laughing Man about what exactly it is to be an individual, and after you synchronize all one's data, what can actually make one an individual again? And the Major has found the answer, as she's holding a small chip that came from a Tachikoma. The answer is curiosity. At this point, Aoi asks what's going to happen to him. And the Major goes, I don't know. And the person to ask is the man behind you, pointing to Aramaki coming down the stairs. And Aramaki asks a simple question, well, what would you like to do? And Oe says, I'd rather maintain this library as best I can. Aramaki goes, well, I have another option for you. You can join Section 9. Unfortunately, though, he gets shot down, as Oe is more concerned about this library than he is about everything else. At this point, the Major tosses the red hat back to Oe, coloring him in that red color again, as they pan out, going out of the library and back into the city. And we get a reminiscent scene of Section 9 getting ready, going through in an A2 loadout, back being an offensive organization again, as we get the establishment of that city one last time. There's a lot to unpack in this episode, as it changes tonality several times through the entire thing, starting off with that small little intro of cyberspace and what had happened from the previous episode and how the Major continues to exist, and that little library hinting towards the end. Then we get Togus' section, where literally it is a retelling of The Catcher in the Rye for a modern age, as he sits there not knowing what's going on, thinking everybody's a phony, trying to make sure that the wrongs are righted and that justice is upheld, not just in the sense of that person went to jail, but also in the sense that the people that should get credit do get credit. And when he realizes that's not going to happen, he decides to take things into his own hands and becomes another copycat of the Laughing Man. Gun in hand, I'm going to go take this man and make sure that the world knows this is where it happened. This is how it happened. and this is who it happened to. And of course, at the end of the day, Togusa is nothing but predictable, and is able to get caught by Bato, as we get another tonality shift from the serious tone of Togusa's flashbacks and his mentality at that point, to the kidding and joking atmosphere of majority of Section 9 sitting around going, yeah, well, this is what happened. We're back at it. We're back to what we can be. Even to the ribbing of Bato, of him going, Motoko, which, by the way, if you've not seen this series, it's worth looking up the end of episode 25 just for that scream, both in Japanese and in English. Then after this, we actually get an interesting perspective and tonality of height. I actually make a point to note Aramaki standing on those stairs with a head above everybody else. The reason being is, up until this point, every time we have seen these characters interact, Aramaki's always the shortest one. Always the one that everybody looks down about him. Oh, you're just a public servant. Oh, you don't actually know what's going on. Until you realize everybody's been dancing to his tune. Everybody's been doing what he's been wanting. And then it transitions into the library. And we see Aoi in the same type of situation, sitting on top of that ladder, talking to the Major. And then eventually realizing that as much as everybody's been dancing to his tune, the Major is now his equal. And he actually steps down himself to be on the same level of the Major. And then we get that transition again to Aramaki on the stairs, going, ha, everything's going to my plan, only to be shot down again when he steps down and tries to become equal, realizing that he might be a little bit outclassed by the Major and by Aoi in this type of situation. However, that's not always necessarily true. But it does tie up the loose ends of everything between the Major and Aoi, the conversation that they're having, using various book quotes as the Major tries to respond back, and we get the yes from Aoi, going, yes, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm trying to say. And then we see, for the very first time in this entire series, Aoi closes his eyes at the point where the Major is telling him the simple thing to maintain individuality is to always stay curious. That's all it takes. And she gets taught that not by, her experiences out in the field, not by her team members, but by one of the most innocent characters in this entire series, the Tachikomas. And the Tachikomas come back in the second season and play an even more pivotal role into the expression of AI and individuality. And honestly, the theme of all of the Ghost in the Shell series, no matter which one it is what is a person? What is a soul? Is there really a ghost that hides within the machine? So there we have it, an analysis of the first season's ending of Ghost in the Shell. Now, I don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing for my next episode of Old Baka Rants at Clouds, but I have a couple of different ideas, and it's something that I'm going to take a little bit of time to think about, but the next episode will be coming out on Monday, I can guarantee you that much. Again, if you have any thoughts or comments on the styling or what I'm saying or anything like that, feel free to comment down below. I'll respond back as best I can. And as always, liking and subscribing does help out a lot. And again, if you can't get enough of me, you can always catch me on Twitch. Again, twitch.tv/EnderDragonoth. Anyway, thanks again for joining me today. I always appreciate every view that you give me, and stay safe out there.